Listen, my wife loves Scrabble, and she gets mad at me when I play with her because I don't play by the rules. I use proper names, but the X in Scrabble in this Oregon and Washington game, Bo Nix and Michael Penix. You get a lot of use in the X here in this game, but this is maybe the best quarterback matchup we've seen to date so far. I'm excited about this contest in Seattle.
Oh, I can't wait. And it's funny because it's the best we've seen until both of them play Caleb Williams later this year. Like, the Pac-12 is ridiculous in terms of these games. And so we just talked about Texas, Oklahoma, and I think it's pretty safe to feel like they're going to play again. And the conference title will be on the line and probably a playoff berth on the line. Going into this game, if you're Oregon or Washington, you look at it like, we may not see each other again because both of us have a meat grinder of a schedule between now and the Pac-12 championship. So this head-to-head is critically important because both of these teams still have to play USC, Utah, Washington State, and Oregon State. Those are all games either one of them could lose. And so you got to have this game in hand if you want to have a chance to win the conference title, make the playoff. And this rivalry, it's a fun one. They hate each other. It's to contextualize it for SEC folks, it's more like Florida, Georgia. So two neighboring states where they absolutely despise each other. Both of them have their in-state rival who they also despise, but they actually hate the out-of-state one worse. So that's the comparison. It's very similar to the Florida-Georgia game and very similar to that level of hatred.
Andy Staples is with us at Andy_Staples. On3 Sports is where you get his stuff. Go support it. Watch all the things he does. Do the same things we ask you to do for us. Give it thumbs up. Subscribe to it. Follow Andy. He's on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. Who has got the headset advantage in that game? Kalen DeBoer or Dan Lanning?
Ooh, that's a good question because I think Dan Lanning. Yeah, well, and it's sort of like what we talked about with Brent Venables. You learn things in your first year as a head coach. You become a better head coach. Kalen DeBoer had head coaching experience in his career before he got to Washington. You know, he was ahead of Dan Lanning when they played last year. I don't know if he's necessarily ahead of Dan Lanning now. I think Dan Lanning learned a lot of things that first year. That you go back to that Oregon State game last year where Oregon State, I believe they ran 17 times in a row during the middle of a comeback against Oregon. And Dan Lanning realized, okay, Mario Cristobal did leave me some talent, but I have to upgrade the talent on this defense. And he's gone out and done that. One of the guys they brought in was Jordan Birch, who was a 5-star guy who was at South Carolina as an edge rusher. They went and upgraded talent in the secondary. So this is a better defense probably than Washington played last year, even though it is lacking Christian Gonzalez, who was a first-round corner. But when you play Michael Penix Jr. and those three receivers, you got your hands full. And so I think the best way for Oregon to handle that is guys like Jordan Birch, guys like Brandon Dorlus getting after Michael Penix Jr. because he has not been pressured very much, and Washington's offensive line has done a really good job. But I think Dan Lanning in the offseason understood that better. We'll see if he handles end-of-game situations better. That game last year was a very strange ending where Bo Nix gets hurt right before a fourth down play.
Yep.
Where if they make it, they're going to probably win the game. So very strange situation. I think Dan Lanning would have loved to have that back in terms of decision making. So now he gets a do-over. But I like this in terms of coaching matchup. These two guys are going to be stars for a long time. And what I think is interesting about this is because both of them are headed to the Big Ten, you don't have to worry about them getting poached now. Because that was my biggest thing. When we didn't know what was going to happen to Washington and Oregon, my first thought was, okay, some Big Ten team is going to go offer Kalen DeBoer all the money in the world. And you'd be hard pressed to say no if the Pac-12 had held together or if Washington had wound up going somewhere else. But since they're going to the Big Ten, I don't think you can get Kalen DeBoer out of there now. And I think that's great for Washington going forward because he is apparently a breath of fresh air. We're actually going to have him on the show on Thursday. I can't wait to talk to him because he is advertised as one of the more normal human beings you will meet as a college head coach. Wow. And I will tell you, I have talked to Lanning quite a few times. He is also one of the more normal human beings you'll meet as a college head coach, though he does have that insane competitive streak whether it's Xbox or anything else. He is trying to cut your throat in a competitive situation. But they are that I can't wait to see this rivalry as the years go by, because I think these two are going to be there a while and they're going to be really good for a long time.